And we are live. Good morning,
Let's
good evening,
go.
good afternoon.
I'm
How,
sorry, man. Yeah. Hey,
man,
how are you doing?
dude? I can't complain. Well, aside from the fact that it was 80 degrees yesterday and now it's like negative 30 degrees.
Snow's coming.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This is some craziness outside, global warming and all that fun stuff, I suppose.
All that fun stuff, man. Um,
All that fun stuff. Oh man, how you doing?
you know what? I'm doing well. I'm just every week is just uh, something new, something
Yeah,
fun is happening in the space.
yeah,
And time is kind of the um, biggest problem because I just want to do everything.
yeah.
I want to test everything. I want to play with everything. I want to break everything. So that's really it. Like even this week, that's so like we have Agent Gateway 1.0 released, which I'm pumped about.
Yep.
Because it's not only that it's our 1.0, but it's kind of significant because um, we're decoupling kind of K Gateway from it, and it's its own thing,
Yep.
which is awesome, right? Having all that capability, having that the data plane that is optimized for the AI stuff, and it's all running there. And I think that's a great. Uh, what am I? I'm kind of rambling on, but
No, no.
it's great to decouple it from K Gateway
Yeah.
and have now this one release, one set of artifacts that we can test, demo, play with, and add more features, especially as customers are asking around it. So.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, there's always going to be a separation of concerns, at least right now, until the
Mhm.
industry figures out like which direction to go in. But there's always going to be a separation of concerns in terms of like your standard stateless microservice style workloads, right? And your
Mhm.
AI style workloads, and like how they work, and how traffic it goes from one place to another. Like, it's drastically different. The whole like header versus response body stuff, and stateless
Mhm.
versus stateful and all that jazz. So yeah, very, very cool. In other news, it's March 12th. In about a week and a half, a bunch of us are flying out to Amsterdam for KubeCon. I got my KubeCon 2023 shirt
Oh, look at
on here.
that. Isn't
Yeah,
that when we
so
met? Did I meet
I
you
think
in
so.
2023? That is
Yeah,
when we met in
yeah,
person, right?
yeah. I think it was that one. It was
Chicago?
yeah, it was the
No.
one where like we ate up the stairs. Remember?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
That's what.
yeah, yeah.
What do you
So
think about
that'd be
cue cards? Like, what is? I need to. We're releasing a lot of new stuff, a lot of cool things. Is there anything specific other than if you say AI, like specific in AI that you're going to see at KubeCon or
yes.
excited to kind of talk about or see?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about something that we can't talk about right now because it's
Mhm.
being released on stage at KubeCon by
Yeah.
Solo Leadership. So, but yeah, so that thing that I can't talk about, I'm excited.
No, but like even that, but like in general, like not let's not talk about
Yeah,
secret stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Let's like
Yeah. So I would say honestly, we're like 3 years in, give or take, in the whole like agentic thing. I guess like I don't know, like ChatGPT, it was like 2021, 2022, beginning of 2022, where like everybody was like really starting to talk about it. And then it just like kept picking up steam from there, right? So like I'm always excited to see how the industry is going to shape, right? Not necessarily like the things that are going to change. Like, I like the new stuff, and I like the new technologies that come out, and the new platforms that come out and everything. But like really what I'm excited about, and this is where I get my kicks overall, is like how are we going to use this in production, right? Like, what is this going to look like in production? What is it going to look like for organizations? Like, how are things going to be shaped? So I'm really excited to see like where the industry is heading in that direction. Because I think that for me at least, right? Like, that's the most important thing. Like, yeah, I definitely get excited and I get my kicks out of like new things that come out, and playing around with the new stuff that comes out. But really, I think what gets me super excited is like, how can I go and solve a problem with this thing?
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what comes out in that arena.
I wish I was going, but I'm not, which is okay. I'm okay with it. I'll probably go to the next one somewhere in North America.
Yeah.
But it should be fun. I'm excited to watch some of the stuff. Like a lot of the stuff's going to be on YouTube and all the latest and greatest. Excited to play around with some of the new tech itself.
Yeah, and then there's also like the Agent Con plus MCP Con stuff. Like I don't know, for everybody that's listening, we got quite a few people on at the moment. But for everybody that's listening, there's also like a new Agent Con plus MCP Con conference, and to me, it definitely seems like it's from the Agentic Foundation, and it very much seems like it. My assumption is it's supposed to be like the AI version of KubeCon, right? That's my assumption of it. I'm not 100% sure, but so yeah, so we got a question here. What are your expectations with KubeCon this time? I talked to a lot of folks last time who attended, and they mentioned there was discussion about AI, but it was only around a certain bubble of use cases, and everyone was kind of working on more or less the same things. Do you think that changes this time? I think so this is Sebastian, you tell me what you think, but like I think what Sebastian and I see daily versus what like you may see at a big conference like that, I think like it's very different. Like what we're seeing, and I bring this up because I think it's important, right? Like different avenues of focus and such. But like I think what we're seeing is organizations implementing this stuff. So we're seeing it almost like what it's going to look like in 6 months. Whereas like where people are at right now, I think it's still very much around the idea of like, how do I run an agent and how do I actually get value out of it? So to answer this question, my assumption is at this conference, we're going to see more of like, okay, cool, the AI thing is around and we know it's here. How do I begin to get value out of it?
Yeah. Like even at the beginning when you said production, right? This is where I find we're going to get the value out of it because we've seen it last year, the year before, and the year before that, right? All these new hot startups, new things coming out, AI here. It's moved so fast. Like N8N, we don't even nobody even talks about NA anymore, unfortunately, right? Because you know how autonomous agents are working, and throughout all the conversations we're having with all the enterprises, it's all right, cool. We understand what we need to do. We're done with the chatbots, right? We have our chatbot. Now we need to, do the agentic. We need to figure out, or either figure out what are these agents going to do for us, right? How do we have this, autonomous planning and execution and multi-agent system working, but how to productionize it? Because like we've seen, man, like we all like probably like 5-6 years ago, we're like, oh no, cloud. How do we secure cloud? We had identity in the work. What's it called? Identity and goodness, work workflow, right? Identity and workflow, right? And now we have an agent that can have access to a workflow, can have access to objects, can have access to service accounts. How do we limit that? And this is where I'm seeing a lot of customers like, oh wait, cool, we have an AI. What happens if it does this, does that, does this? And now we're answering those questions. And that's where I feel we're going to see it at KubeCon and even later on this year, right? Like in the last 3 months, everything's changed, I feel, in the AI space. And we're going to continue seeing that itself, which is super, super interesting to big nerds like us that love new things, man.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing to keep in mind too, like especially about things like KubeCon is like this stuff changes drastically, right? Like what we saw a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago is like very, very different. So this is another thing to keep in mind too, like what you see at KubeCon may be what people were thinking about a few months back, right? So like definitely get into the conversations with people to see what others are seeing within their environments. But all that stuff around like how we should be thinking about it, what production looks like. This is exactly what we wanted to talk about today, right? So thank you for bringing this up, which is everything around like agentic quality, agent evals, right? Which we can talk about and all that. But really, it's about like what the agent doing, what you were expecting. right? And I think that's a very, very important thing. So like we got a bunch of people on. Definitely ask questions. Come in. We're looking at comments and stuff and everything here, so we can answer questions as we're going. But like, what the question that I want to ask everybody, and the question that we'll answer as well, is like, are the agents that you're using today giving you the output that you are expecting? And I think that's crucial, right? So maybe we can start with prompts. If that sounds good to you, Sebastian?
Yeah, and I actually just a thought. Like yesterday, I had a great call with somebody from the networking world. So they're looking to build MCP and agents for a Palo Alto firewalls, right? Managing Palo Alto firewalls, and kind of goes back to prompts. I'm like, this is great. You can build tons of MCP tools very simply, very easily, have it talk to whatever platform, whatever API you want it to.
Yep.
But adding those guardrails is the most important part, because I don't want to give everybody access to add firewall rules. And if I do, I need still change management, right? That's not going to go away in the enterprise for a while. Like we're going to trust Claude YOLOing it until there's what's it called? Until there's an incident, and then there's a root cause, like, oh, somebody just ran, Claude in YOLO mode, and it made its own changes, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why, to that point, I don't think we're at the stage where like autonomous agents are actually realistic in any capacity. Like, I know like a lot of people talk about it, and look, I think we all know this, right? But the obvious statement is like what you see on social media versus like the real world. These are two drastically different things. And I think that's important to think about, right? Like, I was talking about this yesterday a little bit on X, but like the same companies, right? The same big AI companies that are telling us, hey, these agents can do everything and these LLMs can do everything, and you can go, drink mojitos on the beach in Hawaii somewhere, are the same companies that are coming out with tooling that are going to make you pay for PRs. So like the math ain't mathin', right? Because like you can't say, yeah, this is all good, this thing can just go push to main and go do whatever you want, and then at the same time come out with something to help you with your guardrails, right? Like and your workflows to make sure that this thing is accurate. It's to your point, Sebastian, like there's so many things that we still need to think about, and I think that's also why we're nowhere near the shape of like autonomous agents today, unless, of course, and this is a very, very big differentiator, if you are an indie hacker and you're playing around with a project on the weekend, right? Push to main, go build whatever, have the agent go do whatever.
Up, man.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But that does not work in production environments. No. And maybe it's not even because the agent can't do the job, right? What everybody has to remember is, depending on the sector that you're in, healthcare, finance, government, whatever it is, you have to remember that there's a lot of red tape, right, in these organizations, in these huge organizations. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Not just red tape, but just process, like on purpose process, because you can't, I worked with like Canadian Blood Bank. I can't just take that out because that revolves around somebody getting blood, right? If the infrastructure is down, I can't, I'm not going to affect a person or somebody not getting blood, right? It's that critical kind of components, those, especially in finance and banks, right? And you're down for a couple minutes, that's money, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm totally game. Like, I don't think maybe we are there for the agent to do something, but like even I was playing around with one of the new features, Human in the Loop, and I know you kind of you were playing around with that. Okay, I can build an agent. I can have an agent that gives me that I can give it read access to help me troubleshoot things. I'm okay. I personally am okay with putting that into a production environment where it says list, read, give me info. But if there's a change of state, or something at this moment in time, like March 2026, right? I wouldn't give a production environment, read access unless there's a human in the loop.
Right.
I want to know. I want it to ask me. I want to ask it why we're doing this, and I want it to understand it, and I need to understand it in that context. Right?
Yeah, and even if the agent can perform the action in a credible way that that will be the output, there's still so many organizations that you just can't do that due to policy.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing, right? So again, what you're seeing on social media of I built this thing and everything just pushed to main and it was great and I walked away, and yeah, cool, but that's your weekend project versus what's actually happening in the real world. And I think that's a big differentiator that we all really need to think about. When we talk about making sure the agents are doing what they're supposed to do, making sure the agent improves with every interaction use case is important too, 100%. People talk about feedback loops in this case, but how do you actually see this feedback loop being implemented in prod that can make this sustainable for teams running this at scale? So I think there are a couple pieces, right, which we'll probably talk about today. Good prompts, agent skills, maybe MCP, maybe not, and then things around agent evals. But before we dive into that, because that's probably a deeper discussion, but I just want to grab this one real quick. Have either of you played with No to control the agent? I have not.
I've seen it. I haven't played around with it. Right, it's a guardrails. It's an open source guardrails product for policies and standards.
Yeah, I think it's just posted it out.
Yeah.
Makes dangerous bits structurally imposed. Okay. Yeah. Prompt injection. Prompt guards and guardrails. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. No, I haven't played with this personally. I'll take a look though. Thank you for the suggestion. But yeah, so going back to this question, really thinking through it. So yeah, I think that there are a few pieces to the puzzle, and without making myself look awful here, I'm just gonna post out something that I wrote, I think yesterday or the day before, which is exactly around this topic, right? So how do we make sure that our agent performs as expected, and how do we put that in the feedback loop? How do we make sure that other engineers that are doing the same thing, similar work, working with similar agents, implementing similar protocols, how can they ensure output, right, is as good as expected? And I also think maybe that's I think 9 out of 10 times you can get it, right? But what everybody also has to remember is the whole non-deterministic in a what we want to be deterministic world. You can have the same prompt, go into plan mode, use the same agent skills, and still get a different result, right? Because it's non-deterministic. So I think that there are a couple of good things that we can start implementing, but I don't think it's ever going to be 100% perfect. I don't think it can be. What do you think, Seb? Do you think it can be?
I don't know if it. I think we can get as close to it, and I kind of touched base a little bit on this last week. But if we can create these blueprints of what the autonomous worker should be, but it has to be super specific. I hear tons of people. I follow Nate on YouTube. He's great. He talks about this, and I feel a lot of people do that. I need to really have good specs on what I want it to do.
Yep.
It's really I'm not talking about a 1 or 3 or 4 page or 3 or 4 sentence or prompt. I'm talking about the do's and don'ts of what's going to be in this template, what it's allowed to do, what it's not allowed to do. If what are the musts, what happens if it escalates to this. But for me to write these specification blueprints or specification engineering, I have to understand what I'm doing. And I find that everybody's vibe coding, and then, we're all talking about this. Nobody understands what half the code they're writing.
Right.
Because it goes back to all these fundamentals. But if you dive into what you need to build, and you can definitely put those guardrails and that blueprint for you, I think it'll do a very good job. I don't know if we're 100% there yet, but you need it to have some human interaction still. And if it doesn't know, it should ask you, what do you think? And you should be the final person that decides.
Right. And I'm just going to share my screen here to that point. I think is very important. Let's do entire screen. To that point of like the whole vibe coding, we don't know like what's actually out there, right? Like it's a really good post by Mitchell.
Zoom in a little bit, man.
Oh yeah. The co-founder of HashiCorp, right? But like this is 100% accurate, right? Like if you're just sitting there and you're like going to let the agent do the thing, and you're not even involved in the architecture or design or like looking at the code, or I don't know, like maybe even like looking at the code like isn't going to be as important moving forward. Like I imagine there's going to be a world where these agents will either just have their own language, or they're just going to go and write in assembly, right? So like maybe like you're not even like looking at anything anymore. But like this is to your point, like this is a good way to like make yourself unemployable or like whatever you want to call it. So yeah, now one thing, going back to like the whole like agent quality stuff, going back to the whole like how to get the best output, and then how to like reuse the same workflow, right? So like the first thing is, and this sounds kind of silly, but it's like the first thing is your prompt, right? Like what do you want to be in your prompt? And like what I would say is, I'll do something like this. I'll say, I want to
zoom in animal.
Oh yeah, is it still?
Yeah, you can make it big. Yeah, so we can see it.
There we go. I want to, I don't know, deploy an agent that can help me troubleshoot Kubernetes. Please write me a prompt for this that Claude Code will best understand, right? So like this is where I start. Like I know a lot of people start with like, oh, I'm going to create a prompt and it's going to be great and yada yada blah blah. But like in my opinion, I'm like, look, I know that whatever I'm using, if I'm using Codex, right, I'll go to GPT and I'll ask this question. If I'm using Claude, I'll go to the Claude UI, right, and I'll ask this question, because it's going to know, in my opinion, how to create a prompt that it knows how to interact with best, right? So I'll do something like this. Like I'll go to like whatever provider I'm using, and I'll ask it to create me the prompt based on what I want.
100%, man.
Then and this is all reusable workflows, by the way, right? Like your team can use this. Then the next step is I'm going to go into Claude and notice, like, if I go into Claude, like right away, it puts me into plan mode. Like I have my Claude MD file set up to where it specifies to go into plan mode right away. If I'm like building a weekend project, like over the weekend, I built a new tool that I'm just kind of playing around with, and I had it just go into like auto accept, right? Because I'm like, yeah, just spit something out for me, and we'll go from there. But like in production environments, and like especially if I'm doing something at work, like I'm not gonna do that. I'm always going to go into plan mode, right? And then like what I can do is I can take this and I can go like this and I can go like this, and that's it, right? And then I'm going to go into plan mode where I'm in architecture and design mode, right? Like I want to see what Claude is going to do prior to it doing it, right? And then I go in and I approve and I say, yeah, you're good to go. Now, one thing to point out, notice like this workflow isn't even me like looking at the code base that it's creating, right? It's not even me looking at like the the language that it's going to write it in, right? I may have my opinions on like what language to use for a particular thing, but at the end of the day, like I'm not even there yet, right? And I think that's super important as well. Like we all need to take a step back as we're using these tools and understand like there are a couple of steps that we have to perform before we even get to the code. Like, and I bring this up because I see a lot of people being like, yeah, I'm going to go straight to it and I'm going to have it programmed for me and this and that. But like in the world of programming, right, when you're engineering something, when you're building a solution, before AI, the last step that you take is writing the code. Like programming languages are just tools to implement your architecture and design, right? Like that's all they are. With AI, you should be thinking about things very much the same way. So like before you even get your agent to start writing code for you, the first thing is make sure you have good architecture, make sure you have good design, make sure you have a good plan on what you want to do, right? Then you have it go write the code for you. And like, that's the easy part. And that's why I think we're seeing a lot of folks, posting out all the time where it's like, AI is going to take, programmers away and yada, yada. Like, and I think really what they're trying to say is like, it's going to abstract us away from programming manually, which is fine. Cause like, that's the easy part. The hard part is figuring out what you're trying to do and designing it properly to run on the systems that you want it to run on. Sorry, I'm going on a ramble.
No, I think it's great. And it's not just the systems you're on, it's also legacy systems too, right?
Right.
And yeah, if you're building a startup, a new app, a new service, man, the world is your oyster with the tools and techs tools and tech you have. If you're going into an infrastructure that's been there 20, 30 years, 10 years, that's on-prem, in cloud, hybrid, how are you going to solve everything, right? You can't. You have to understand those things. You have to understand what you have before you move forward. What do you think? We got a question here. I heard the 10-80-10 rule for AI. 10% is your prompt, 80% work is done by AI reagents, and then 10% is your improvising the results.
Yeah, so I think it's way more than 10% for your prompt. And like, here's why, right? So like, conceptually, what is a prompt? It is the instruction that you're giving your agent. So if I'm talking to Seb, right, and we're working on something together, and I give him, and every once in a while I do this, so apologies, but if I give him a half question, right, if I just like type something out real fast and I'm like, hey, what is this? Like, he's going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you asking? The agent.
Sometimes we're in sync. Sometimes,
sometimes
our context is right there.
Exactly. But your LLM, right, your agent, it's going to have the same response, right? It's like, what is this? But instead of it asking you, well, what do you mean by this? It's just going to assume, right? So like your prompt, in my opinion, is everything. Your plan, the design that you're giving your agent, the plan that you're giving your agent, all the instruction that you're giving your agent, that's the prompt, right? And I think that's everything. Like without that, you can't expect good quality output. So I always say like that's the first that's the first phase right there. So maybe it's like I don't know, like I would actually say 40% of it is the prompt. Maybe 30-40% of it is you going and fixing the output, and then maybe 20-30% of it is the actual agent doing the work, right? Now I'm talking about that from the concept of your hands-off keyboard in the programming and coding phase, right? So the agent is going and it's doing its thing, but really a big chunk of it is the tools that you give it, the instruction that you give it, and then a mess of other things too, right? Like specifying agent skills, agent evals, right? Like ensuring that this thing is running as expected. Like there are a bunch of different pieces to this, but I would say the prompt is one of the most important pieces, in my opinion. What do you
Especially
think?
like when I'm doing any vibe coding or coding, I will probably have a bunch of sub agents and have tasks for them on its own. I do. If I'm doing some research on a blog, I'm like, yo, while we're demoing this or installing it, spin up another sub agent and give me all the latest features in the latest pull request. Um, Find them for me because I want to see what new stuff I want to try. Because pulling from that API or from the repo is quick. Percent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like to your point, it also depends on what you want the agent to do, right? Like if you have an agent going and doing research for you, like yeah, like you don't have to sit there and be like, what are you doing the whole time,
Yeah.
right? It goes and it does a thing and it provides you a response. Yeah, 1000%.
So, quick question for you. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you've seen this. Like I know I asked yesterday about perplexity, but it's kind of some people are saying MCP sucks and it's dead. Um, and right, they could say that, but in the enterprise, it's a standard that we can focus on and deploy. I'm
Yep.
just curious your opinion. Do you think it's? I don't think it's dead. I think it's just people try to
Yes.
clickbait on Twitter or X. But
So I think it's really important to understand just how fast the AI space is moving, right? Like I think the golden rule when you and I first got into tech was like upskill yourself out every 2 to 5 years, right? That was always the general idea. Now it's like every week. Like do
yeah,
not get into AI unless you're actually interested in like
see all the
upskilling yourself.
grays. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, like is MCP the end result? Like absolutely not. Like I think if it is, like we probably failed miserably as an industry. So like I don't think it's the last resort. However, what I do feel is so conceptually, right? There are three things to make sure that your agent is four things to make sure that your agent is doing what it's supposed to do. A good prompt and plan mode, right? Your helper files like your Claude.md, and I think there's like a task.md and all these other ones, right? Agent skills, which are, just a collection of prompts, code examples, and docs pretty much at a high level, and MCP server tools. The reason that MCP server tools are still very, very important from an enterprise perspective is because you have the ability to lock them down, you have the ability to observe them, and you have the ability to secure the connection to them, right? So, who can access the MCP server tools? At what time can they access them, right? If we're talking about attribute based access control, what tools are available, what tools require authentication, and if I'm going from agent to MCP server, my line of communication, right? Agent gateway, for example, or whatever AI gateway you're using, if you ensure that you're using the data plane proxy that exposes metrics properly, right, and traces, you can see that line of communication where, oh, this agent is going to talk to this MCP server and it's talking to these MCP server tools, right? All that stuff that I just spoke about, that is incredibly important to every organization that Sebastian and I talk to, right? Like that's actually probably one of the first out of three things that pop up in every conversation. Now, because that standard, right, gives us all those things, right? And agent skills, for example, as far as I know, does not right at this exact moment. Unless you're using like agent registry, right, where like they're sitting in a registry specifically and you're setting up authentication and authorization to that registry, right? But by themselves, it is not giving you that level of control. And I think that's why enterprises want to adopt it so much, because they need that level of control, right? What do you think?
No, I'm on the same page. Like we need that level of control. I can't just willy-nilly have an agent hit an API right now and do stuff. Because even if it does, I still got to put guardrails on how is it going to do this things. Is it going to spin up,
Yeah.
a SSH client and install itself on it? Like 3 years ago when I was doing stuff with ChatGPT or Gemini at the time, no, GPT at the time, when my agent automatically installed SSH on my server, I was like, wow, like I didn't ask it. This is a clean Ubuntu server. And it's like, oh, well, cool. I have access to the internet. Let me just go pull this. And oh, cool. Here's an API. Let me do that. Like, it's cool. Like you said it earlier, at home, doing things, testing it on your laptop, getting that MVP out. But when we go into these regulated environments, and environments that have to be up, right, all the time, my lab goes down a lot because I'm tinkering with it all the time. Right. And sometimes I'm like, forget it, let's just wipe this whole thing and rebuild it again because it's quicker than troubleshooting it.
Yep.
So I think we need those guardrails. I think it's important.
Yeah, and whatever protocol it is, right? Like if Agent Skills comes out with that same type of standard, right, where you can secure it on the line of communication, your agent gateway, right, or like whatever it is, or like whatever other thing comes out, like cool, like it doesn't have to be MCP. It just has to be something that has the ability to be secured and observed. And that's all. I don't think MCP is like the last standard. I think what's going to be really tough is organizations are moving very fast right now to implement things like MCP. And if it doesn't stick around, we're going to be refactoring constantly. like there's going to be and enterprises like are actually moving way faster now with AI than they ever have before. But at the same time, like if once this thing is implemented, like MCP, for example, man, it's going to be really hard to say, oh, by the way, sorry, this has changed now. And you have to go back everything,
redo the entire architecture. And
right. Yeah. So that's going to be difficult. Okay. So we covered MCP. We covered prompts. We covered plan mode. We talked a little bit about agent skills, but I'll bring that up here as well. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Question about skills. Are you building your skills yourself?
Yeah.
Or are you downloading random skills off the internet?
No, I'm not really. And so I'm not pulling random skills off the internet. I usually build them myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
And like I build them myself in like various ways. I'll like go to Claude, for example, and I'll be like, hey, can you build me this skill to like do this? Right. Just as an example. But at the same time, I don't know, like you tell me, do you think going and pulling a skill off the internet is a bad thing? But so let me take a step back. If you're pulling anything off of the internet and you're not verifying it with your own eyes, that's silly, right? Trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm pulling a skill off the internet that somebody built for whatever, like I'm looking at it, like I'm looking at the prompt, I'm looking at the code examples, I'm looking at the docs that it's hitting. And like if you do that, I think that's fine, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't pulled any skill off the internet, to be honest. I did once, and on purpose, because I wanted one that has prompt injection in it.
Yeah.
And that was cool to see that.
Yeah.
It was fun. I've used skills my teammates have made. Matt, he made a PowerPoint skill with specific themes and logos and fonts. I'm like, perfect. I trust that source. Published it in the local corporate agent registry.ai or open source program, and I pulled it from there.
Right.
But if I need to do anything, I will build the skills myself and add my kind of flavor into it, let's say.
Right.
Because the way I want my agents to speak to me is probably different than anybody else.
Yep.
Because even if you look at like GPT, which have you noticed that OpenAI has dropped the Open GPT in all the models? I don't know if you've noticed that. This was like 2 weeks ago. It's still backwards compatible, but the new models are just GPT 5.2, GPT 5.4. They dropped that open in it.
Interesting. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense now. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, now it's not open GPT 5, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, they I'm sure that's a legality thing at this point with everything going on. Yeah. So real quick, I just wanted to show with the agent registry CLI, you can initialize a new skill if you want like a template to go and help you build a skill versus building it manually. Yeah, and this is the gist of a skill, right? Like the only thing that's required is this skill MD file, and that's pretty much like a big giant prompt, right?
Yeah.
So if I like just like open
in
this
K agent, we just updated that you can have skills through Git repo now.
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
Which is really excited about.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Actually, one more topic I'm going to talk to you about after, which I find very interesting.
Absolutely.
But go ahead. No, finish your thought.
Yeah. I just wanted to show like this is a skill MD, right? Like it's pretty much like a big giant prompt, and you're just like you're architecting and designing via Markdown how you want your environment to look. So that's the only thing that's mandatory. But like then you'll also see scripts, right, where you have like either executable code or you have like example code, and then any type of templates and then any type of references. So like if you have like a PDF or a Word doc or anything like that, you can utilize that. And what's really cool about this is like this isn't the fine tuning approach, right? Or like any type of post training or anything like that. Like you're not doing anything with the LLM. This is directly for the agent itself, right? So just something to keep in mind. And then you mentioned you had something too, right?
Yeah. I'll share my screen if you don't mind, because I find this super interesting. And I was talking to Eitan, one of our lead architects, and he actually just posted this yesterday. You can see my screen. Just make it bigger. She posted this today.
I saw this.
And I was so. Eitan talks about building agents in Go.
Yeah.
Right. And what was wild was this to me.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like just image sizes startups. So if you 2 seconds to 18, memory idle timeout. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I'm not a Go guy. I've done a couple of Go things in the past because we talked about it like 5 years ago. It was hot, so I built some Go things. But now I'm like, man, now I'm just going to build my agents in Go. I might even teach my kids, my students this week. Hey, I'll create a new assignment to build in Go, because they did the Python thing in Langsmith. I'm like, hey, let's change it up. Maybe do a Go one.
And I think that like it makes sense conceptually, right? Like Python is a very slow language by default, like it always has been. So like doing these things in Go makes a lot of sense. I think the only reason why a lot of people are still defaulting to Python for anything AI related is because there's a lot of really good libraries specifically in Python for like fine-tuning models, right? And like building models and like doing everything around like we can call it ML engineering versus AI engineering, right? Like everything around ML engineering is still very, very Python centric. And I think that's why you'll see a lot of frameworks like ADK and Crew AI and stuff like defaulting to Python, because that's just like what it's always been in the AI space. But now with AI engineering, we're way less concerned about things like fine tuning and building a model and like implementing our own transformer models, and we're more focused towards like what the agent is doing and how it's doing it and how it's performing inference and all that jazz. So like doing this in Go or Rust makes a lot of sense in comparison.
And while I'm here, I'm just going to post this new kind of, we had the human in the loop with K agent. Definitely try it out. Just runs through a demo for you to kind of create that human in the loop.
I know you put out a blog. on
yeah,
this, right?
which is pretty neat. Oh yeah, it's just a fun. It's a good thing to have, especially if you're going to start moving agents into production. Give it that required approval, that human kind of touch to ask for it itself. Other than that, any other kind of crazy topics you've been finding around the internet?
Yeah, I'll take like 5 minutes to talk about this. I think this is super important in my opinion. It depends on who you ask, right? But I arguably think that this is probably the most important thing. Like anything around agentic agent AI quality and output, I think is arguably the most important thing right now in the industry. And agent evals is really, really cool. You can take a look at this. I'll put this link in the comments here. But essentially, you're really thinking about it as like the full evaluation from when your agent runs to like when it completes a task. So the gist of evals is you take your trace, right? So like there's, I would say like in terms of observability, like traces, metrics, logging, like traces are probably the most important piece in agents. And conceptually, traces are like end-to-end application performance health. So in the world of agentic, it's, you know, end-to-end agent to agent or MCP or LLM health, right? So what you can do with agent evals, again, this is from Anthropic here, is you can take a trace, right? And that trace could be live, or that trace could be, you know, an agent that ran a day ago or a week ago or whatever, right? And you feed that trace in, and it'll tell you, like based on like a grading system, based on benchmarking, how your agent performed and how it could do better, essentially. And you could see like there's like these like code-based graders here, right? For like fast, cheap, is it objective, is it easy to debug, all those different things. So yeah, this is really, really cool. Definitely dive into this. Again, I think this is probably arguably going to be, you know, one of the most important topics moving forward for sure. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I'm going to definitely dive into that today.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it from me. Yeah.
Well, with that, we can kind of end the show here. The biggest thing I want to, or kind of just some final news things that I want to throw in is, of course, our hackathon is still happening. We extended it till KubeCon. If you are at KubeCon, make sure you go talk to Mr. Levon here. He's going to be there wearing a pink suit. Now you have to go in the nice suit.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think we have a room that we're gonna be able to have like a couple hours where we can all kind of get together and hack on a project together for a hackathon. So definitely feel free to come.
Yeah, that would be definitely fun to do.
Yeah.
Other than that, we Agent Gateway 1.0 is out. K Gateway 8.0.8 is out. We also have our enterprise version of Agent Gateway, GR 2.2, I believe. 0.2.2 is out, decoupling itself from K Gateway, which is awesome. I'm loving the direction that everything is moving forward itself. And maybe even next time we might not just talk about always AI, but we'll throw in some cloud conversations, talk ambient mesh, and I feel like that's still very important. I know AI is always hot, but service mesh is still here, and we are the kings in that space.
Yeah, maybe that's a good topic for next week, agent mesh, or next week.
Agent. Yeah, definitely we could do some agent mesh stuff with Agent Gateway, waypoints, especially as you kind of expand that environment inside your clusters.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Seb, thank you as always for joining. And yeah, great conversation.
Yeah. See you guys next week, and like and subscribe, right?
Yeah.
Right, guys. You gotta go on that. You have to have it. You gotta do it.
All right. See everybody later.
Take care.